Okay, welcome in everybody. We are here in now the Week 10 recap and analysis. And finally, after several weeks of beating you around, Tanner, how's it going?
Ooh, sounds hot. Have a repeat of beating you around. Yeah, I'm good. I'm here. Hey, what's up?
So you are sitting in first place at this point. You have enough points on Masochistic Monkeys, and you're looking to cruise into those playoffs with another win this week. How do you think it's going to end?
I don't, dude. I've been so lucky this time, or like so far. I've been this lucky. I just hope I can keep riding it. That's all.
Well, with this last week, you definitely demolished, maybe just maybe, by over almost 35 points.
Yeah. Oh, the one thing I'll give myself is that I have been at least pretty consistent. I haven't had the horrible week. Like I've had one really bad week, but for the most part, I'm pulling anywhere from 130 to 150, which gets me those games where suddenly someone has a shit week. Then, well, great, I won because I just did okay. And that's kind of what I've been doing all season. I've just been doing okay, and just in those, and everyone has been so volatile that I just catch them on the weeks when they're down, and I've been benefiting. It's been nice.
Your lowest point was 114. Your highest at this point is 179.
There we go. So that's, yeah. And I was thinking for some reason, I haven't done any research for this week. I've been busy for like the last 3 weeks, been all Denver and Portland, all this crap. So I haven't really been paying super close attention. But yeah, I was thinking I had been in like the 90s or under 100 at one point. So that's good to hear. I haven't been that bad. So
no, you're not the Dark Knights.
Some people.
Yeah. This last week,
well,
though,
you're not the only one to sub 100 though this year. I mean, there's been a few.
There has been a lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Your dad against Flaming Moe's this last week, he was sub 100, lost to the Flaming Moe's. I thought for a while there, Arthur, who ended up at 117, was going to not break 100 to Clunge Plunger, but he managed to squeak into that. And yeah, but
yeah. What do you think? Do you think Metcalf is finally on his way out?
On his way out, like done?
Well, I just mean in fantasy relevance. I don't mean he's getting fucking fired from the Seahawks.
No, I imagine, especially with Lockett struggling with injury and they don't have any good running backs, they have to throw it to somebody. So,
yeah, dude, he's a beast. Like I don't see him going anywhere. I see him taking over. But there's a lot of people that I've been listening to. They're just like done with him. They're like, well, he's out. Like, dude, it was one game. He's still a beast. Like, yeah. Anyway. So
I wouldn't have expected that. All right, we'll finish up the recap here real quick again. You beat, maybe just maybe, Solania lost to Clunge Plunger. Flaming Moe's beat Sea Chicken Chokers. Steel Dynasty beat Chubbawamba. And Masochistic Monkeys, scoring a paltry 112, got a win against the Dark Knights, who only scored 69 points. But at this point, you're at 7-3. Eli's at 7-3. Zach and Sean are both at 6-4, and the rest of us are 4-6. We're all literally, I mean, if you lose 3 games and some of us win 3 games, I mean, there's a chance you could end up in the toilet bowl. Not likely, but.
No, I know. That's why I'm still scared. I don't feel safe. This whole season's been so weird. Anyway, it's just, like I said, I've been pretty fortunate. I've had a few injuries, but not what other people have been dealing with. But I was told last year that the whole injury argument doesn't mean shit. So I don't know what anyone else is trying to use it for if I'm not allowed to use it.
Who told you that?
Pretty sure it was Eli that said it last season.
Oh, well, you're listening to Eli. That's your first problem.
Well, it is true. It was the first and last time I listened. No, I'm kidding.
No. Jeez. All right. Before we jump on over into players, because I definitely want to talk about some of these pickups, I do want to do the quick pick 'em. Sean is currently winning at 32. Then Zach is at 26. Haley and I are at 23. Did you stop playing?
I did my usual mid-season, missed a couple weeks, and now I'm just out again.
Gotcha. Okay.
It happens every time. Like, I'm good, I'm going. And then I'll miss a week. And what always happens, it pisses me off, though. I'll think I only missed 1 week, and then it'll be like 2 or 3 weeks. It's like, how the hell did I miss like 3 weeks? So I'm out again. I guess I'm never getting that shoe back.
Yeah, it happens. But the thing that I did want to talk to you about, obviously we can talk projections and how everything's going to go. Before we jump on over into players, I was actually got a message from Sean in another league that we're in, and he asked who do you think the best team in the league is right now? He obviously said Steelers. Eli responded and was immediately saying, all the Raiders are up there, but that's not true. But he did mention...
Just because they're not awful for a year doesn't mean they're good all of a sudden.
Just because they're better than the Broncos does not mean they're not awful, okay?
I'll second that.
I mean, I feel like Patrick Mahomes needed to get, like, the worry of a loss out, and so he just picked the most unlikely team, like, we're fine losing to these guys. Like, you know what I mean? When you're super
Saints
nervous.
did the same thing.
Yeah, you're super nervous, and you just got to get one out real quick, and you're like, okay, we're good to go for another, like, 20 games. So thank you, Raiders, for ruining that for the rest of us.
Being a palate cleanser.
Seriously. But who do you honestly think is, I mean, obviously Breeze just went down, and we'll talk about that more in a second. Shakes things up over in the NFC side of things, but who do you think are the best teams so far going forward, all that jazz?
All around teams, again, that's a tough one to even judge because, I mean, God, you know how I hate to be seen agreeing with Sean, but the Steelers up there. Just because they're pretty good on both sides of the ball. Their defense is that's the way it always goes in these. You watch how this happens. Like once the defenses step up, the offenses can be shit, just like the Steelers. And it's okay.
Yeah. Because
they'll still win. So I'm trying to even I'm looking at the list right here. I can't even because I can't give it to the Saints now. If we have Winston heading the ship on that one, it's game over.
Oh no! But Jameis Winston, he can air out
crab legs over. And the Hawks, they're good on one side of the ball depending on the game.
Sure.
And same with even Green Bay would maybe be someone I try to give it to, but again, their defense has been really up or down, and it's mostly just been the Aaron Rodgers show on offense. And
how much of that though?
The Ravens haven't been what they're supposed to be. I don't even know how to rank them this year. If I'm being honest, I wouldn't even know where to start.
So the problem that I have with the Steelers being the number one is I feel like, they do have a good defense and that's great, but the only thing that's also keeping them competitive is the fact that they have. I mean, I'm not saying he's a great player all the time, but Ben Roethlisberger has been surprisingly consistent for the team this year. I mean, if Ben Roethlisberger's gone, it's the same thing with, Green Bay is a good example. Patrick Mahomes for Kansas City. You take away that quarterback piece, and you're like, okay, now what? But I feel like if you take out Ben Roethlisberger, sure, you have, Juju has been lackluster at best. James Conner hasn't done much every other week. Claypool's been okay. So you just take away Ben Roethlisberger, and really all you have is the Baltimore Ravens this season. Sure, last year they were great with Lamar Jackson, but it's like he hasn't done anything this season, and all they have is a defense.
I agree with that, and even their defense has been pretty inconsistent. So,
for the Ravens or Steelers?
Ravens. Mm-hmm. The Steelers defensively till halfway through this season, so a quarter way through, their first few weeks they looked fine, but they weren't stellar. Mm-hmm. They were fine. But the only thing is, I would put the Bills right there because I think the Bills and the Ravens look almost identical this season. Only difference, Lamar Jackson is slightly more accurate in my eyes. That's the only thing I've really been seeing and so it's tough for anyone in the AFC to pick.
Yeah,
I would still, and I guess, sorry, to the Steelers in the sense that they're very similar. They're very defensive teams. The difference with the Steelers is, yes, like you said, they have been. So they have the opportunity for huge plays that can happen.
Sure.
Whereas the Ravens and, the Ravens and the Bills have shown sparks of that, but nowhere to the same level. Roethlisberger always been a deep threat. So, whereas I don't think anyone would say Jackson.
What about NFC, the NFC side of things?
So I got nothing.
No?
I'm going to stick with the Saints, but it is a rough... I don't even know who to call, honestly, again, because even with Jameis Winston, I hope they give Taysom Hill a chance, but
yeah,
probably not. No, I give it the Packers. If we're going to say NFC, I'd say it's Saints. That's where I'm at with it.
Okay. Saints or Packers versus Chiefs and maybe Steelers, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I put the Chiefs ahead of the Ravens, again, just quarterback play, because they have those chances to just be huge.
Sure.
And the Chiefs' defense isn't horrible. They're middle of the pack.
We'll see what happens. But a couple things I did want to point out here before we jump on over into the waivers, and obviously I want to talk about that a little bit. This last week was the season record for lowest points for a team score. Dark Knights obviously only scored 69.9. But I did want to point out the lowest of all time was actually 56.7 points. Last year in week 2 was the Crusty Jugglers only scored that. So
thank you. Not stealing my mantle. Extremely proud of, obviously.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But the other thing I did kind of want to point out is the fact that obviously we are all kind of bunched up there. You're sitting at 1484. I think your dad has the most at 1567 for most points, followed by Zach, then you, that sort of thing. But we are all kind of bunched up there.
Yeah.
Right now, you're sitting at a record of 7-3, and I went back and looked through the last 6 or so seasons just to kind of see. The average record for the champion ended up being 9-4. Even people who scored 10-3 in some seasons, they only got second. So the person who ended up getting 9-4, that happened, I believe, 5 times, and 2 times the record of the champion was 8-5, once by Sean and once by JR. So everybody else did the 9-4.
One more loss, maybe 2.
Yeah, exactly. Now, points-wise, the highest amount of points for a champion was last year, obviously, with the Dark Knights and the triple running back stack. That was 2208. Zach was 2154. And then it was actually right around the 1920s and 1950s. Other than your dad, the first season scored over 2,000. So if you're looking at just points, you have to score about 600 points in the next 3 weeks to shoot for the highest point total of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't ever think I was in the running for that.
Okay. But again...
So, yeah, that's cool. But yeah, no, I don't see myself getting there, no.
The lowest was actually Bane's Army at 1928 and 1922. Sean, back in the, I believe it was the 2015 season, he had 1928. So you are within grasp of that one, but all in all, we've all kind of been lackluster, to say the least.
Yeah, like I said, this season has just been up and down for everyone, kind of like we expected, but I've just been lucky enough to be semi-consistent, and it's put me in enough wins at the moment.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, but, I mean, just an example, like this week, see, earlier, I mean, because I activated Swift finally, and he went 17 points to now 4 points, just because of injury.
Yeah, I was going to say, did he
supposed injury
get a concussion?
Is it full-on concussion?
Yeah, I believe he's going through the concussion protocol right now.
God.
Yeah, that sucks.
The week I activate him.
Yeah, I mean, it happened. It's just literally that year. That actually is a good segue over into waivers, because obviously everybody has made moves. I believe your dad is still the least at 12. Sean and Eli are both at 16. You're at 19, but most of us are up into the... Oh, I'm sorry, I missed Arthur. Arthur's only at 18. Maybe make some moves, buddy. You're in 9th. Come on.
Yeah, if anyone needs to make some moves.
Yeah. No, it's one thing, like, your dad never makes moves, and he always does okay. It's tough to rest on the laurels of your draft class unless you're super good, but that's banking on a lot of injury not happening, and especially in this kind of a season.
Yeah.
This week especially was a little interesting. I don't think as many people put in the waivers as they should have or could have, but how much of that is it just being tough, and how much of it is just kind of prepping for what might come?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we're in the home stretch now. People are actually trying to grab people not just for, who will get me through this week, but who's going to get me through the rest of the season, I think. So, I mean, there were obviously ones I tried to put in for. I knew I wasn't going to get, like Ahmed in Miami and
sure,
in New England, Harris, right?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Damien here.
So anyway, and so I put in for him, but yeah, I think it's finally getting that point where Deshaun and have kind of cleaned up anyone that there is that isn't just like a last week go off or a few. So yeah, I think we're finally getting to that point, unless there are injuries and you just don't have a choice.
Yeah,
in a lot of this season, but I think people are finally settling into who's going through, hopefully, to the playoff.
Sure.
And in the final stretch. At least that's where I'm at before Swift apparently went down. Just read about it now.
Right after you activate him. But no, I mean, I do believe you're absolutely right with a lot of it. Most of these moves, I mean, obviously, first off, I don't know why Eli dropped Ronald Jones last week.
Yeah, that surprised the hell out of me. Especially, yeah, anyway.
No, go ahead. What do you got?
Well, I mean, God, that 98-yard run, was that what it was?
Yeah, that was only like the 6th time in NFL history or something like that.
Yeah, granted, no expect him to do that, but it did surprise me more just because of the fact that he's a decent RB2 as an actual player. Now, obviously, as fantasy, he's been pretty up and down,
sure,
which we expected with Fournette coming in there, and so, but he's been really strong in my view.
Yeah. Well, I was talking.
I would have expected from him.
Yeah. I was talking with actually Deshaun about it, and I was just like, there are just some running backs, and I know I'm probably the prime example for it. There are some guys that you just have to play every single week. It's like, even though somebody like Elliott's been doing terrible, Lamar Jackson's been doing terrible, it's like, I feel like you just have to play these guys because of who they are. There are some guys like, say, Melvin Gordon's a good example. Ronald Jones is the one I'd compare him to, where it's like, you're going to have up and down weeks, but it's like, but you're not going to drop the dude. It's not like it's the backfield for the Chargers where it's like you don't know who it is because of injury, or you're not going to go to Baltimore. It's like, well, okay, Lamar Jackson's going to vulture 3 touchdowns from the running back. It's not that kind of inconsistency. It's just one of those where, well, he fumbled and Bruce Arians definitely benched him, but then he has a 98-yard. You got to keep him. At least through the season.
A season like this.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I wouldn't have done it. I don't think it was necessarily crazy. I didn't pay attention to if he had a bunch of injuries and he just had to pick someone up, or there was a real reason I didn't look that closely. But, I mean, I'm even struggling to drop Fournette, and he's been the RB2 to his 1, essentially. Neither of them have really gone off, except for the occasional game. And I'm even struggling to drop just because of, well, probably just name value more than anything, just because of the fact that he has produced. And I mean, I would have this week for an Ahmed or a Harris, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, though, because it's still one of those where it's like Fournette is in the Tom Brady dump-off pass offense. And
yeah, he's been getting the receiving yards.
Yeah, and so if anything happens to Rojo, obviously Fournette's going to be there. I mean, might not be pretty.
Yeah, he's a great handcuff in that, sure, because he'll get work.
Yeah.
He can produce with work just from his history. Yeah,
exactly.
I agree. And so that's why I'm like, that's why I'll sit on him. Hopefully, like, maybe he'll end up becoming useful here. But for now, I'm just sitting on him. So, yeah.
Well, when that happens, then you end up sitting on a guy like Marquise Brown for far too long. And you're the idiot if you drop him, but you're damned if you don't. So.
Well, if we're going to talk about that, I happen to remember someone talking in the first podcast about how he was not a great pickup. But I remember more.
Not
just you.
Who was the guy that you had said was going to be good?
Yes, at 12. And I said that he would take over. I should have known that, that Dak was going to or his ankle.
Uh-huh.
All right. But what pick was Marquise Brown for you?
Was it the 2nd or the 3rd round?
Either way, it was too early, I think.
Well, yeah. The tough part about most of the draft is the fact that it's like you're drafting at technically 7 for the first round.
Right.
And so when you're picking up somebody, it seems like a good deal because you're like, oh, actually, technically, but then you're thinking about it later and it's like, well, clearly I should have just picked up Kalen Ballage at this point because he's been doing better than Brown. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't believe you didn't see that. What's wrong with you?
I know, seriously. Who knew that? No. The other thing that I obviously wanted to talk about is the fact that I had to go out and pick up a guy like Alex Smith. Obviously, I know you've got something to say about that, so just go ahead and lay into me, and then I'll mount my defense.
Yeah, I've seen Smith back. It's been fun, and I hope he just gives more old scary Terry for me, and that's all I care about.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie though, I am legitimately afraid for his life.
We all are, but we're all willing to take the risk as well.
Well, but he's on my team. And that's kind of what compounds it for me. So Saquon went down, Christian McCaffrey went down. I've had receivers that have been injured but still played through them with Kupp. Elliott, who knows what's going on with him. I go out of my way to go pick up Drew Brees, and now the dude has, he broke his insides.
Yeah,
because
thanks a lot, Dick.
I don't know what's going to happen, but Alex Smith might die on the field on Sunday.
They did. He's old enough. It can happen.
I
am just have like a brain aneurysm. We're going to all blame you.
I'm legitimately afraid, but I didn't want to pick up anybody else. It's like, okay, well, I already screwed over the Saints. So if I go out and pick up Jameis, who knows what he's going to throw Winston?
Actually, please pick up Jameis. Please, for the love of God, pick him up. Hopefully he's the one that dies, and we get Taysom Hill in like we all want.
Yeah, no, Zach picked him up, so I imagine he's just going to ride his bench just to see what happens, which is the smart fantasy play. I mean, see what happens with him, and if you look like a genius because you grabbed them, otherwise,
Hey, he's sitting on your bench. Who cares? Right?
Exactly. The other one I did want to kind of mention, obviously there are pickups like Hunter Henry by Steel Dynasty. Your dad's been struggling with kickers. Jacoby Myers was picked up by Deshaun and immediately dropped. What is with Eli and his drops? He dropped Alan Lazard.
I don't know because because he was injured, right? And
he had
a big week last week. But but Lazard is clearly the number 2 to
Adams.
Adams.
Yeah.
So he's essentially the Metcalf of that team in my eyes.
Yeah.
He's not as good as Metcalf, but he's the big guy who's gonna, get those deep threat type plays.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would have taken him.
I don't know what he did there, but that one was just interesting to me. Obviously, there are a couple others we could talk about. P. Rivers getting picked up by Chubbawamba, or the New England defense. I mean, some of these pickups, it's neither here nor there. Really, the one I wanted to get off my chest was that I feel bad if Alex Smith dies, but I need his 300 yards this week. I need a consistent 200 or 20 points, something. I just need something.
Just a consistent 200 points every week, and I'm in the playoffs.
Just anything, not negative points. I don't need a Cam Newton, just anything at this point. So,
dude, I knew old fucking Scam was gonna go off. He actually, I thought it'd be like halfway through the season before he crapped out, but he's already looked garbage.
It's been terrible, but it's one of those situations where it's like every time Cam Newton actually plays a full 16 being healthy, he's a top 5 fantasy option. And that has not been the case this year. I should have known that he was going to catch COVID, but
I was on your side with him actually as a pick. I would have grabbed him too if I didn't have a QB. So
yeah, there was a chat earlier in the offseason, I believe, when I was talking with Eli, and we talked about how Tom Brady was probably going to weaponize the COVID, and that's probably what happened with Newton. He's just never recovered.
It's just lashing out. He's angry and old.
Exactly. So. All right, so we're going to move on into the matchups for this next week. We have Maybe Just Maybe versus the Dark Knights, Masochistic Monkeys, and Flaming Moes. Bear Down for Balls Deep, currently projected under Chubbawamba, but I imagine that's going to be a blowout for you. Steel Dynasty, and Plunge Plunger, Sea Chicken Chokers, and Solania. How do you think this week is going to stack out for most of us sitting at 4 and 6?
You 4 and 6 guys. So crazy.
Yeah, Arthur and your dad are 4 and 6, so there's one is going to move up, one is going to move down. Dark Knights and Maybe Just Maybe also 4 and 6. The other two are Chubbawamba going against you, which is one of the 3 wins that you need to clinch, or Plunge Plunger versus Steel Dynasty, and I don't know if he'll clinch with the win or not. I imagine it'll depend on the other 2 games. But
he's been so screwed. Like, the problem is I keep voting on Hayden. He's got so many names, and it just panned out for him, and you can tell he's doing the old thinking. You can tell because the way, first of all, just the way he's been churning the waiver wire, but also just the way he shifts. It's like a different team every week because of which I understand. No, I'm not. I am shitting on it, but I'm not actually shitting on it. I probably do the same thing, but it does suck when you're in that weird cycle of no matter who you play, it's gonna be the wrong guy every week, and that's kind of what it seems like Hayden's season has been. It's just guy that's on his bench. He's going to go off, and whatever guy he decided I'll put him in, he'll just totally flounder. Yeah. So I think Hayden at this should win, but I probably, if I was still doing the pick'em, I'd probably still go Steel Dynasty because that's been as lucky as me this season. Yeah. So, well, okay. Eli has been as lucky as me this season as well, but other than Eli, does he count? I don't know. Anyway.
I believe Sean has the second easiest schedule behind you. Third is Eli. So just to kind of put that in comparison.
See, that sounds right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Toughest schedule is actually your dad, but he's managed to outscore it just barely.
You can say Dad's put up points, though.
Yeah,
that's the thing,
he has.
So. But beyond that, yours has been rough. Yours has been because of injuries. I mean, if it hadn't have been for your 2 going down, you'd still be in the fight, but if you can get McCaffrey back for even a week or 2, you can't.
Yeah. I keep hoping, but we'll see. So if you were to project it right now, who do you think's fighting in the toilet bowl? Who do you think's going to just squeak into the playoffs?
It's so up in the air. I could still maybe just squeak into the playoffs at this point. So I would say I think Dad will make it in unless some weird freak thing. Again, he's getting points, so it's more just been scheduled for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think Hayden should make it in just based off of names, and Deshaun should make it in also because he's had the play of the waiver wire for the prime times. So if he doesn't make it in, then that says a lot more about his ability to turn the waiver wire than anything, I think. But beyond that, I'm afraid I don't see Chuba Wumba making a big comeback unless Arthur makes some moves. He's not going anywhere. Yeah. And then it's just if you guys can get healthy. So
if anybody can actually score over 5 points.
Yeah.
We'll see how the rest of it shakes out. But yeah, it's coming down to it again. I believe you should clinch with the win this week, but it just depends on, those other 4 and 6 teams and how that works.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is one of the least confident weeks. Like I feel much better about next week than I would about this week.
Yeah. Because as I recall, your remaining schedule it goes Haley, Hayden, and then your dad.
I could lose to any of them.
Or all of them. Really this year has been so on its own, who knows? Most of the time I would look at my remaining schedule with Deshaun, Haley, Hayden, and I would be like, I'm set. But I just know if I score over 75 points for any of those games, you all fucked up somehow. I don't know how, but it just happened.
The commissioner has spoken.
Uh-huh.
It is official.
All right. Well, we are going to jump on over into the power rankings just to see how these shake out. I have not read them yet, so you're going to hear me fumble through all of these.
Yeah. Arthur and I are we're thinking it's you.
But, me writing them?
Yeah, we'll see though.
Okay. We're going to start down at number 10 this week just because I want to get this one over with. Last week's number 10, this week's number 10 is the Dark Knights. To say that last week's performance by the Dark Knights was pathetic doesn't even begin to do it justice. They turned in a performance so bad that our language has yet to invent the proper word to describe it. Things don't look to get much better this week as they face off with maybe just maybe. The smart thing for the Dark Knights is to start thinking of a good 0-pick challenge for the next draft to ensure they get a player that will keep them from being in this position next year, because this season appears to be a lost cause.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd go that far because, again, anything can change. I mean, literally half the league's at 4-6, so
yeah,
I wouldn't say your league's over. I mean, your season's over. I didn't even realize you'd picked up Christian Kirk, but I think I hate it because I grabbed him too early. But I think he'll start performing this second half of the season.
I grabbed him, and I believe I played him last week, and he didn't do anything. And so I put him in tonight, and I'm got my fingers crossed for that game.
It's just if Murray is essentially doing the Bills routine where he's just running it all in, so it's like, well, sadly, the receivers other than one particular receiver just don't get anything. So anyway, but I'm looking at your team now, like your main 4 right here. Alex Smith right now should be fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's not gonna go gangbusters, but he should get you solid points. Chase Claypool, I mean, going against Jacksonville, he should feast in theory. Christian Kirk going against Seattle right now should feast in theory, and Zeke sadly should always feast and hasn't been.
Mm-hmm.
Hooper, he's been he's sucked this year, but he should.
Well, he's been hurt.
Tight end.
Yeah.
And then Gibson, flashed last week.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Cooper Kupp, who, good luck just guessing which game. But I mean, there's no reason you should lose this week. But you very well could.
Yeah, I say that every week, but Deshaun pointed out we had a long phone conversation. I believe it was yesterday. He was just kind of giving me the what for and telling me how I messed up this year. Really, what he said I should have done, because obviously keepers, I'm going to lose either Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley this year, and if anybody gives me a great trade, obviously I'll move on from one of them. But I made the mistake of gambling my first round pick because I could have gone for 10th, taken the 0 pick, and the first round dropped Saquon Barkley, and then picked him up and gotten a first round pick. And I messed up my season going into next year already by gambling that Le'Veon Bell was not complete trash.
That almost is a self-own right there.
Yeah, no, I admit it. It was a. But
it's also almost self-collusion. Is that how that works?
I don't know, but
self-lusion.
On the one hand, I still kind of feel good about picking or trading for Le'Veon with the first round, just because if you get that right, you're the genius that gambled and got it right. but it just went so wrong for me like everything else. So again, I am afraid for Alex Smith's life this week because he may just die.
And I'll cry with you in the sense that Le'Veon Bell is, his second half of his career, has been so disappointing, man.
It has, yeah.
I wanted to see him go from the Steelers and then just show everyone what he could do, and they just hasn't done it. And what did I text you when you grabbed him? Or before you made the trade, you said, what would you give for Le'Veon Bell the minute he went to the Chiefs? What did I say to you?
Oh, I don't even remember.
I said something to the effect of, I don't know. It could be good. But the way that team spreads the ball around, I don't know. And then I saw you made that trade the next day. I got the notification. I was like, oh, shit. He was going for it.
No, I
was like, okay.
I did. I bit the bullet on it because I was like, because again, if I'm right, it's the right call because the running back in that system, they lead so often. But apparently Patrick Mahomes is like, I don't need my arm when I'm 30, not even 35, 40. It's not like he's just like, I'm just going to screw it right now and be done with it. He got paid and he's done. So it's like, you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell, and I don't even know who the third string is, but he's just fine too. But no.
Yeah, it's enough to catch a pass from him, right?
Seriously. All right. Anyways, we're going to move on before I get
Yeah, well, but I want to, okay, no. Before we move on from your matchup, I want to point out, of Deshaun's team, who going into this season thought that these players would be good? Let's do a quick math real quick and talk about how Deshaun plays fantasy football. Deshaun, I'm confident now in saying he purposefully drafts terribly. I'm going for it. I'm saying he does it on purpose. Because look at this. Who on his team? Rob Gronkowski? Who the hell thought he was going to be worth rostering this year? I mean, seriously thought he was worth rostering.
I thought a lot of people actually did just because it was that
other
Brady.
Than dipshit New England fans, other than them, for real, who thought he in our league? I didn't take him seriously, and now he's got him on his bench. Who thought that Justin Jefferson was going to be a thing?
I was listening to a podcast. I believe it was Footballers. They were talking specifically about certain draft classes, and I believe there's only one or two rookie wide receivers this year who haven't been great in some capacity. I mean, looking across the board, then Claypool is another one that's been solid. T. Higgins is also.
But I would have seen that coming. That I understand.
Just for the area, even though what's his name went to Buffalo. I mean, all that they have in Minnesota now.
Okay, well, for one, I didn't like Juju. I've never liked Juju, so I figured someone had to come in and take over
for Pittsburgh. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
but
so Claypool doesn't surprise me.
Yeah,
Justin Jefferson surprises me.
I don't know. Again, Diggs left, and so Jefferson coming in, being that number 2 behind Thielen, that made sense.
Okay, well, let's keep going. Damian Harris. When did he pick him up?
This week. Yeah, he picked
yeah, no shit. That's what I'm saying. That's my point. Who on here? No one wants a New England running back.
Not
but
this
right
season.
Now, guess who he's got? The only one worth anything.
You know what's going to be the worst part? He's playing me this week. Damian Harris is going to have a killer week, 3 touchdowns, 150 yards. It'll be fantastic.
Probably.
And then he'll play him again next week and be like, oh, he's on fire. It's like, well, no, that's because Sony Michel comes back and you just got trashed. So, and it's just because he was playing me this week.
I hope you're right because that sounds like New England to me.
Uh-huh.
So, but yeah, we'll see what happens. But I'm just none of these Chase Edmonds. No. No one was talking about Chase Edmonds. Are you kidding me?
No, I mean
Brandon Ayuk. No one wanted San Francisco wide receivers.
No,
come on, that was your last. I need to grab a rookie. All right, I'll grab Ayuk. Anyway, I'll shut up now. But it's hilarious to watch it. Deshaun, if you don't make the playoffs, you done fucked up. That's all I'm saying. You had all the waiver wire opportunity and you messed it up. So just throwing it out there.
There might be a ploy to that. If you lose your first 2 or 3 games, get those good, you see how the season's going to kind of go. I feel like that's just giving him too much wherewithal.
It's a little 40 chess he doesn't deserve kind of thing.
Exactly. But
looks on a banana peel, does a backflip. Anyway.
All right. Last week's number 8. This week's number 9 is Solania. This team has finally reverted back to what we all thought they were going to be at the beginning of the season. Another loss last week to Clunge Plunger has put Solania in the midst of a 4-game losing skid. Things don't look much better in Week 11 as they're the clear underdog in a matchup with Sea Chicken Chokers. Both teams desperately need a win, but Selenia looks to be obviously overpowered by the Chokers in this bout. Their strong start to the season seems like a distant memory now. For a brief moment in time, Selenia looked like Superman. Now they more resemble Christopher Reeve after the accident.
Well, I think the main thing we need to talk about with Arthur right now is the fact that he has not now officially taken advantage of his waiver priority. Because the fact that he didn't grab Ahmed or Harris, and he's still got Lindsey on his starting lineup. Come on, buddy. Come on, buddy. Like, what do you think Philip Lindsay's going to do against Miami, who's actually pretty damn good defense?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's your dude, Arthur. Talking to you right now, man. That's your problem. You didn't make moves. You had the first half of the season when no one was expecting it. Then you shit out for a few weeks. You got waiver priority, and you didn't do anything with it. I mean, Logan Thomas, sure. I mean, yeah, great. Got a decent tight end.
Maybe.
But maybe. I mean, or yeah, he did pick up a mid. I'll give him that. But why has he still got Lindsey on his starting roster right now?
Yeah. No, the only thing that I have a problem with this little blurb is the fact that it makes the case that he did so well at the beginning of the season. I don't know if Arthur was ever in first this season.
I don't think he was.
We're going to move on. Last week's number 7, this week's number 8 is Chubbawamba. Yet another team plagued by inconsistency. Chubbawamba hasn't won or lost consecutive games since the first 2 weeks of the season when they started out 0-2. Last week was a rough one as they didn't perform all that poorly, but ultimately fell to Steel Dynasty. This week, they look to play the Giant Slayer as they go into their matchup with BearDownForBallsDeep, the favorite by a mere 2 points. I think that's
before DeAndre Swift apparently was officially.
Yeah, they changed some stuff. They already felt the pain of the cold steel shaft penetrating their team last week. Hopefully for Chubbawamba, they won't have to endure a balls deep beatdown in Week 11.
I mean, shouldn't it just be a balls deep in Week 11? I mean, whatever. I mean, it's your wife, so maybe that's weird. I don't know how that works.
Yes, that was weird.
Anyway, yeah, I don't know how she's actually done this well. She picked up Mike Williams, which I was pissed about because I really wanted him. That was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I feel like.
Yeah,
and I really wanted him, but I mean, he's kind of a handcuff, obviously, in her situation. And obviously, grabbing Tua will hopefully pay off in the long run. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
I don't know why she's running 3 quarterbacks, but whatever.
Does she still have 3 quarterbacks?
Yep.
Gosh. Well, she did move up in the world, and she did drop Jared Goff this week. So, congratulations.
I'm proud of you, Haley. Congrats. No. She finally got rid of the Goff. What do you have, like 1 good week?
I don't know. She always manages to find him on her roster. Like, I tell her she has this weird crush on him. It's an infatuation, but she won't ever admit it. Just because he looks like Ryan Gosling does not mean you need to have him on your roster.
Yeah, he is like Ryan Gosling, uglier brother.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, anyway, I don't have anything else to add on that. Yeah, I just hope I destroy her this week. And so far, Tyler Lock ain't doing shit. So let's hope that stays up.
Yeah. All right. So last week's number 4 big drop, maybe just maybe, is now at number 7. Though they lost last week to BearDownForBallsDeep, it's hard not to wonder what would have happened for maybe just maybe had Patrick Mahomes not been on bye during a down week for practically everyone in the league. Still, a loss is a loss, and this team had incredible momentum building before they suffered said loss, as they had won 4 games in a row. They look to rebound this week in a very winnable matchup against the Dark Knights. Maybe just maybe is a streaky team full of piss and vinegar, and until last week, they were just filled with vinegar.
I just give them streaky.
Yeah.
Dude, could you just beat him, please?
I would love to, but I will not gamble on that one because, you know.
I already shit on Deshaun, so I'll shut up now.
It's all right.
Who did he draft that was worth keeping? That's all I'll say.
All right. Last week's number 6, this week's number 6, Sea Chicken Chokers staying right there in the middle. Sea Chicken Chokers fell victim to the mind-numbingly low scoring output of Week 10 as they were defeated by the suddenly hot Flaming Moes. It's been an up-and-down season for the Chokers as they just broken a 4-game losing streak in Week 8, only to start a new 2-game losing streak following that week. They should get back in the win column with a cupcake matchup against Solania this week. After starting the season white-hot, this team has has taken the hard plunge down the rankings and is now in danger of missing the playoffs. That chicken isn't being choked anymore. So much is being slowly strangled to death.
So, am I wrong here? Or neither of these guys using the COVID-19, bench designation?
What? I actually hadn't checked that matchup yet.
Dad or Arthur are. And I don't know why. But this is, again, just so I'm going back to, Arthur's promise, he's not paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
He's not making moves. He was doing fine at the beginning of the season because, some weird B players that he grabbed were the main guys. And he kind of stopped. And, okay, Dylan is on COVID, but he has his red shirt, so why would you put him onto IR?
Yeah, you can't move him to IR.
Yeah. I get that. He's got Chris Carson, who's been out, and he hasn't grabbed anyone in his spot, has he?
No, I think that one was a late-minute addition, though. Last I heard that was today, so...
fair enough.
I don't know why your dad hasn't moved Mecole Hardman. I feel like he's been in the COVID protocol for a little bit now, but...
Yeah, it's I'm giving Arthur shit for not paying attention. My dad said, how long is Mecole... why does he have Mecole Hardman? No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think that's the main thing is it's just he's not making as many moves. But then again, I guess I'll walk it back a little. He did pick up Ahmed, and the reason he's probably got Lindsey on here is because who the hell else is he going to play? So
sure.
I'll walk it back a little. I'll walk it back.
All right,
but it don't look good, man. And Dad's going to kill you. That sucks.
All right, we're going to move on. Last week's number 9, this week's number 5 is Clunge Plunger. The outlook sure has changed quickly for the once cellar-dwelling Clunge Plunger. After going on a 5-game losing streak, they have now won 2 consecutive games in convincing fashion, inserting themselves into playoff contention in the process. Facing stiff competition this week in Steel Dynasty, Clunge Plunger will look to continue on their newfound wave of fortune. Hopefully for their sake, that wave doesn't carry them straight to the bowels of the sewer from which they finally crawled out from, on their way to joining a majority of the league in the 4-6 pipeline. Did they really climb their way back into contention, or did the rest of the league just lower themselves to Clunge Plunger's below average standard? And that is the question.
And it's tough. Again, just looking at the names on this roster, he should murder Sean. But I don't know if he's gonna. And I'm one that likes Dallas Goedert a lot too as a player. Sadly, wrong situation. Yeah. If I hadn't already had Hawkinson, I would have grabbed Goedert. But yeah, long story short, with Hayden's team this whole season has been just that he's got all the names. They just haven't done anything. So on paper, he should kill Steel Dynasty. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Okay, so now last week's number 5. This week's number 4 is Steel Dynasty. Speaking of irritating outbreaks, Steel Dynasty was one of the only 2 teams to outperform their projections in Week 10, on their way to a victory over Chubbawamba. Led by 2 great games on the ground by Josh Jacobs and Kareem Hunt, they managed to come out on top of the only close matchup on the week. Foolishly, they removed their mouths from Ben Roethlisberger's genitals long enough to place him on their bench and watch him score 48 points there. Obviously, it didn't matter in the long run, but hopefully we can count on more poor decisions like that in their Week 11 bout with Clunge Plunger.
And you want to talk about another team that's 2.5 men? Come on, I'm not alone on this one. Let's be honest here. And hey, okay, I'll throw some more shade to Sean's way. I know in our trade, giving you Marvin Jones wasn't cream of the crop, but he's at least now that he's healthy. I can't believe you dropped him. Honestly, granted, if he had actually pushed, I would have probably given him Cooks. So I'm glad he didn't push. But I couldn't believe he dropped Jones because I honestly picked up Jones specifically because I thought now in the second half is when he was going to start performing.
Sure.
Like a wide receiver too. I'm not expecting him to go off. I'm just expecting him to put respectable numbers, 10, maybe 15 points on a good week. And he dropped him. And I don't know why. So I think it was a good pickup by Steel Dynasty to grab Marvin Jones Jr. And he's been living off Roethlisberger and Jacobs this whole season. Who else he got? Pittsburgh D. It's yeah. My vote is for Hayden to win, but I don't know. He's been lucky like I have this season, so we'll see what happens.
Sure. All right, last week's number 3. This week's number 3 again is Flaming Moe's. Much like the rest of the league in Week 10, Flaming Moe's had a very underwhelming performance, yet it resulted in a win over Sea Chicken Chokers. After going through the first 8 weeks without consecutive wins, Flaming Moe's are now on a 3-game win streak and look to continue that success against masochistic monkeys this week. Just when you thought this team had gone away for good, like herpes, here they come flaring back up with a vengeance, infecting the rest of the league. If only there was a fantasy football form of Valtrex to rid the league of this scourge. If only.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to talk about a team who on paper looks good, it's going to be Zach's team. I mean, but Lamar Jackson right now, did you think that's crazy? They're still projecting him up at like 36%. He's not going to do that.
No, I don't believe he is.
That's crazy. They still just put him, again, Yahoo projections.
Mm-hmm.
Bullshit. But, again, I mean, he's got Fuller, Thomas, I don't know, he's got Winston now, so we'll see what happens. But on paper, Thomas should be good every week.
Mm-hmm.
And Davis, obviously, I mean, every week that your boy's down, obviously Davis is going to perform. So,
say that, but I don't know if he will.
Well, and I will say that Teddy Bridgewater's play has actually made it so the running back is slightly less as important on that team, but only slightly.
Yeah. Well,
and Davis is still a pass catching back. He's still caught a decent amount.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's no McCaffrey, but
nobody is. But I was going to say, if the one that I do keep hearing about, most fantasy football analysts are looking towards the fantasy playoffs. The thing that they do point out is while Dalvin Cook has a great Dallas, Carolina, Jacksonville for the next 3 weeks, after that he plays Tampa Bay, Chicago, and New Orleans into the championship. Yeah. So those run defenses for him are just, he looks great now, but...
No, I'm glad you brought up Cook because he's one of them that has dethroned momentarily my boy, Kamara. But only because of a few chunk plays. Yeah. I wouldn't say it's because he's... I mean, he's undeniable. He's a great runner. I mean, he's one of the best in the league. He's unquestionably top 5. But I'm with you. I think his best days for this season are over.
Yeah.
I think he's... Now, granted, he's still an RB1, but I think it's going to be less than what we've seen from him.
Sure. Tough sledding, yeah. But it is still one of those names that you have to put in. On the opposite side of the ball, though, I did want to bring up Derrick Henry. He does kind of have that little bit, obviously, Baltimore. If Baltimore plays like they did last week, Derrick Henry's going to do great. Then Indy is a little tougher, but then he has Cleveland and Jacksonville the first week of the playoffs, then Detroit the second week. But going into finals, Green Bay, also a great matchup for Derrick Henry. Please do not let Eli get to that point.
Well, that's the problem with Derrick Henry is he's kind of the king of matchup dependent. Bright runner, and he's very strong, and so he wears down these defenses. But if you get one of these defenses that can take it, and in the first half they kind of just stop him, he's pretty well done. Like, have you noticed that where like he doesn't have that second half push if he's been stopped in the first half? Whereas if he's the one wearing down the defense, though, then it's scary as hell. Yeah, and he's just running over everyone.
Yeah, he just keeps building on that momentum. Yeah,
exactly. So that's why I think Derrick Henry is going to continue to do what Derrick Henry has done, and I think in the good matchups he is going to go off, and the bad ones he's going to just do okay.
Yeah,
and I do think that's what we're going to get out of him, and so hopefully it's enough to knock Eli out of the playoffs. But I don't know if it, because I mean, again, 2.5 men. You know, he's got Thielen and.
Yeah, he has Thielen.
Thielen and Henry. That's about it. No, anyway, sorry. So 1.5.
I mean, it depends. I mean, because James Conner is pretty much that half man. Like 1 week he'll be great, the next you're like, oh.
Which I was making that argument the minute he replaced Bell. As I was saying, it's totally just gameplay dependent. If he's getting a lot of passes and a lot of dump offs and stuff, he looks great. But if it's just strict running, he's out. He's out.
Speaking of masochistic monkeys, last week's number 2, this week's number 2, a less than stellar victory over the league doormat Dark Knights put masochistic monkeys back on the winning path, keeping them in the number 2 spot in the standings. A Week 11 matchup against Flaming Moes could go a long way in determining playoff seeding and a potential playoff bye week, as they'll either tumble down the standings or remain in the top 2. This puts the masochistic monkeys in unfamiliar territory, as now when they hear that they're number 2, it actually represents their spot in the rankings rather than the bodily waste of which the team normally represents.
Yeah, we'll see if he can keep it up. I mean, he's essentially the epitome, or like he's the equivalent of a straw man argument for a team.
Yeah.
Like, it's... So anyway, we'll see what he does. I don't know. Again, another one rocking 3 QBs, but was Burrow his red shirt?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll shut up. I'll leave him alone then. But in Ertz is on his IR, so Jamal Williams always going to be. He's a good handcuff.
He's the handcuff. Yeah, exactly.
We'll see. It all depends if Cousins can keep his shit together and then Thielen can keep getting enough. Yeah, it is kind of dependent on his first two there, Cousins and Thielen. If they can if they can stay in tandem here, and Derrick Henry does his thing, he's got a chance.
Yeah. So what about somebody like Ruggs? Is it a prime time for him to think about dropping him with as lackluster as he's kind of been since week 5, or what should he do with him?
Yeah, man. I mean, Eli, if you're listening now, if you want to trade Ruggs, you just let me know, dude. Now, honestly, I love Henry Ruggs. I hate the team he's on.
Yeah.
I love Ruggs, though, as a player.
It's going to be one of those Amari Cooper scenarios where it's like he's going to be trash.
Exactly. That's a good one. I haven't heard anyone compare those two, but that's a good comparison. That is, because all the talent in the world, but probably the wrong situation.
Yeah.
But to your point, for this season, yeah, you probably need to drop him at this point. Their matchups aren't that favorable. They're not horrible, but they're not that favorable. And he's totally boomer bust. Is what sucks. I mean, and that's why I was surprised, because I thought Ruggs was his rookie, but I guess not.
Yeah, no, it is Burrow. But we do have just one more here. Last week's number one, this week's number one is Bear Down for Balls Deep. Riding a 4-game win streak after defeating Maybe Just Maybe, Bear Down for Balls Deep has held the top spot for 2 consecutive weeks. Now they have become even more dangerous after activating their surging redshirt running back DeAndre Swift. Week 11.
Well, I thought it was.
Week 11 poses a tough challenge as they go into their matchup against Chubbawamba as the underdog. A true Cinderella story, Bear Down for Balls Deep is hoping the clock doesn't strike midnight on their bewildering season just yet. Surely, their opponent will look to remake this version of Cinderella as a snuff film.
So, first of all, was I last or second to last in the original rankings? Or was I? Because I think Arthur was last. I was second to last, and I think Arthur was last.
I think so,
if I remember correctly.
But
what I don't get is how the hell it's decided, like, whoever's writing this, which I still maintain is you, but how you decide who's number one week to week, because I'm not seeing how I'd be number one this week.
Well, power rankings are a little different ballgame when it comes to how everything's been stacked out. Now, I can confirm I have not written these. But
fine.
It's a combination of the amount of points that you scored, the strength of schedule thus far, the remaining schedule thus far for your players, and how it's supposed to shake out. So it's not necessarily what directly based off projections. Yahoo has their own power rankings that actually go Flaming Moe, Sea Chicken Chokers, maybe just maybe Chubbawamba, and Clunge Plunger for top 5. So those projections are a little off, but they base it primarily on I believe it's points remaining or something like that.
Yeah, see, that makes it, it's going to be off their algorithm.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. And so, I don't know. I hope I pull out a win, but it could go either way. This whole season, I've said from the very beginning that I was banking on essentially 2.5 men. And thank God, Kamara's paid off. McLaren, for the most part, has. Rodgers, in your fucking face. Everyone that questioned me about Rodgers, in your face. I'm just going to throw it out there because he has killed it.
Who questioned
you on it? It's been awesome to watch. Who questioned? You serious?
Yeah, I don't.
You did.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
We're gonna have to get the production on this.
You were not on board with me grabbing Rodgers when I did. You were giving me shit like everyone else was. Whatever.
I love me some Rodgers. But
I know you do, but you didn't think he was going to do this well this season, did you?
I don't think anybody thought he was going to be this on fire at this point. But
I did.
It's still,
Okay, not this on fire, but but yeah. So we'll see if I can keep it up. Everyone's still a question mark since day one. Every single one of my guys has been a question mark. Well, okay, other than Kamara, and even McLaren, who's my half man, has been a question mark and now that Alex Smith is back, it's nice because he's getting more. But yeah, and now I'm putting Cooper in, which is probably a mistake. I don't know. I'm screwed. I'm probably going to lose now. Just watch.
No, again, you have had one of the easiest schedules. You do have a little bit easier. Take advantage of that, man. I know Sean really likes to lean into that easy schedule, and he takes full advantage of it. Maybe it's time you do too.
Well, I tried to with Swift, and now that's bit me in the ass. Apparently,
it's just like his first professional concussion. It's no big deal. He'll be there, soon.
Oh, I'm sure he'll be fine next week, but I'm like, of course, it has to be the week I activate him. And no matter what, we have to acknowledge, if we're going to talk DeAndre Swift, we have to acknowledge Matt Patricia. And has he fully gotten rid of his New England leanings? And is he actually going to give the full-time starting job to Swift? So even without the concussion, there's always a question. Could suddenly Adrian Peterson decide to come back? Could suddenly he like Kerryon Johnson again? I don't know. So I guess it was always a question mark.
Sure. All right. Well, that was the power rankings. And as we do look to kind of wrap this one up, obviously I always love hearing your little foibles. You mentioned you did not listen to Eli's podcast yet.
Correct.
You probably should, just to hear the last 5 minutes of it. I don't know how much the rest of it was enjoyed, but obviously the last 5 is probably a good call.
Okay.
What about, though? I mean, do you have any trash talk, anything you want to bring up? Any, throw down, man. Come on.
No, I don't know why you're depending on me to do it. Like, what the hell? There's been more trash talk from other people this season than me.
Yeah, that's why I'm waiting for you to just finally chime in.
No, I'm winning for once. I don't want to fuck it up.
That's the perfect opportunity to do it.
The only thing I'll give is, for the love of God, Clunge Plunger, kill Steel Dynasty. There is no reason you shouldn't. Just kill him. Like, take him out of the playoffs. His team sucks ass. Other than Jacobs, who does he have? Like Godwin, depending on the week. Yeah, okay, as much as Evans. But all he has is Jacobs. I will maintain, if there's anyone that's like a team right on one guy, it's him. Sean has just been lucky as hell with schedule, like me. Not saying I haven't been also. I have unquestionably been lucky. But when I look at his team, I'm like, who is any good? The only one I see that's any good is Jacobs. Well, yeah. And fine, Roethlisberger. I hate Roethlisberger, but whatever. A lot of people like him. But otherwise, who's he got? So, for the love of God, Hayden, just kill Sean. Other than that, I don't have any shit thought.
Nobody else? Not gonna.
No, apparently it sounds like maybe I should have some toward Eli, but I don't have any at the moment, so I'll just let it sit. But hey, Eli, even if you talked a lot of shit, I still want to trade you for Andrew Rooks.
Our trade deadline is passed, so you got to wait till the end of the season. But 3 weeks left.
Season, whatever.
3 weeks left till the playoffs start. Sir, you are stacking up pretty good. If you get that win, I imagine you'll clinch, so good luck there. Otherwise, we'll see how the rest of the season plays out.
Sounds good, man.
All right. We will try to have you on again here at some point.
Nobody wants that. All right.
I don't even think anybody listens to these. So
it's true. I'm pretty sure President Trump has tweeted about it, but otherwise no one listens.
Yeah, so then it got taken down for fake news. So
that's right.
Anyways, on that note, we will be back here next week. Hopefully Hayden listens to these and we can get him on. Otherwise, sir, thanks so much for being on. All right, everybody. Until next time.
Deep.